Hello, everyone. It's been a long time that I have not met all these wonderful people watching us and attending from different countries. So I'm Ali Azzeddin, and I'm so excited to welcome Joy again and again. Joy, those meetings started like 2 years ago or 3 years ago during COVID. We had a chance to meet you like minimum 3 times, and I'm so happy to be with you again today for a very short kind of a session about parents and positive discipline. How are you today?
I'm very good. How is everyone? I'm so curious where everyone's calling in from. So if you do want to pop in the chat, it's nice for me to know where everyone is. I'm actually based right now in New York, but I'll be in Dubai next week. So I'm very excited to be here with all of you. So it's my morning. Let's see where all of you are.
And it's my evening. So here it's 7 p.m. in Dubai, Joy, and I'm so excited to meet you again face to face next week in Dubai for an intensive kind of a working week where we are having face to face workshop. So people are attending from Kuwait, people are attending from the UAE, from Lebanon, from Tunisia. And so as you can see, we have the diversity between the countries, the continent, the different time zone. And for the people who don't know Joy, I'm not sure if there's someone who doesn't know you. So Joy is a lead educator, positive discipline educator. We've been collaborating together for now more 6 year. Joy offer professional development about positive discipline, coaching session, and as I said, like virtual workshop, face-to-face workshop, one-to-one workshop, or even group workshops. Joy, let me start with the first question. And for all the parents, or the teacher, or the counselor who doesn't know what is positive discipline, how can you define this big philosophy in few words, if you don't mind?
In just a few words, that's
Yeah.
difficult. I will say, what I think is very important to understand about positive discipline is, as you said, Ali, it's not a technique that we're using to manage children. I really think that's important to understand. If you use it as a technique to manage children's behavior, not only will it not work, it will probably completely backfire. So, as Ali said, he called it a philosophy. And so, positive discipline is a way of interacting with all human beings. So, I know many of you are here as parents, you might be here as grandparents, you might be here as educators. No matter what relationship we're looking at, whether it's a relationship with your child, with your student, with your spouse, with your friends, with other family members, this philosophy applies to all interactions, all human interactions. So it's a way of communicating, it's a way of interacting, it's a way of connecting with all human beings so that we can make sure in our relationships, everyone feels a sense of belonging and significance. So it's all based on the psychology. It's grounded in the solid psychology of Alfred Adler, who was born in 1870, and Rudolf Dreikurs. So this is not new stuff. Jane Nelson and Lynn Lott co-created positive discipline, and they brought it out there to the world over 40 years ago. So again, it's not a new program. I hope that helps a bit.
Okay. So this is a quick intro, and I know that on the market we can find so many books about positive discipline, and I know also that you co-authored one of these books. Being someone who is also a mother, Joy, so I'm going to start here. I know we both have daughters, our daughters have the same age, and you've been like teaching positive discipline. You've been as a teacher, you did so many roles, and let's say a few years ago you became a mom. So was it easy to be a mom, again implementing positive discipline at home?
Okay, this is a great question because, as you said, I've been an educator for over 25 years, and I've been applying positive discipline in my own classroom, and it's always easier to apply it with other people's children, right? And I was very lucky that when I became a mother 6 years ago, I had been applying it so much that a lot of the philosophy, it became my way of interacting with all human beings. So I was applying it with my colleagues and with my other family members and my husband. And so I did have a lot of practice in it. So it was probably a bit easier for me than most people who just pick up a book and say, oh, I want to change this. However, I just want to really stress that you will never apply it 100% of the time. It's hard. It's much easier to use all of those other parenting methods out there, like punishment and rewards and praise and bribery and all of the things that we're used to using, because they work. They're quick fixes. They work in the short term. It's much harder. It takes a lot more effort in applying positive discipline. And when you do it, most of the time, you'll see a huge impact on your child and on your relationship.
Good. Joy. So I'm someone who's really a believer about this idea that Alfie Cohen shared in his book, Punished by Rewards. And I when I go again to all these classes and I still see teachers or even parents, like, if you do this, you're going to get a star. If you're doing this, we're going to have a fun day. If you're doing this, I'm going to give you like extra pocket money. How can we really say to the parents, this is not the right way? And what is the alternative?
Okay, so this is the thing. All of those strategies that many of us use, the most common parenting strategies out there, let me explain. Punishments, right? We all were raised with punishment. Many of us were raised with rewards. So that's the whole idea that you're explaining, Ali, like the carrot and the stick, right? Punishment and rewards. Those are the most common strategies in the classroom and at home. And why do we use them? Because they work. We wouldn't use them if they didn't work. What we need to remember is that they only work in the short term. So yes, rewards and bribery, right? It might work in the moment, but what is it really teaching our children? And what happens when you take away those rewards? What happens when you take away, whatever it is you're saying you're gonna give them? There's no motivation. So positive discipline wants to develop an intrinsic motivation, not extrinsic. So we want kids to do things because it feels good for them, right? Because what they're getting, the fulfillment they're getting from it. Now, this is what Alfie Cohen writes about. This is what Carol Dweck's research is based on when we talk about growth mindset. So in our workshops, you learn many alternatives to punishment and rewards. And one of my favorite, and a reward is also praise. When you tell a child, good job, well done, terrific, great, that's like a reward. It turns on the same pleasure center in the brain, that same, like Pavlov's dog, it's giving that same hit, as you want to say, of dopamine. And so we give alternatives. I'm not going to share the alternatives now, because that's what our experiential workshops are about, is you coming and you experiencing and role-playing alternatives. And I just want to share that when we look at, we typically say no more rewards and no more praise. And I don't mean ever. So I like to kind of follow the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, we're going to try to apply the alternatives, the effective methods. And 20%, we're going to fall into old habits, because sometimes we just need to survive. Like, as a parent, we just need to get through the day. And when we just, we need to just get through the day in the moment, we usually use ineffective strategies, because in the moment, we just need to get through it. And sometimes those strategies will work in the short term.
Okay, so Joy, when we talk about positive discipline, we're talking about positive discipline from the perspective of the parents, from the perspective of the leaders, from the perspective of early years educator, counselors, teachers, maybe school principals. And we're hearing a lot about like positive discipline schools, or even a positive discipline environment. So if there is a tip that fits across all these different environments, what would it be?
So this is what I love about positive discipline, is I can see people are from all over the world. And no matter what culture you're in, environment. As human beings, we all have two very, very basic emotional human needs. The first one is belonging, to have that connection, to feel a part of. And the second one is to feel a sense of significance, right? A sense of contribution or purpose. So, and that's in all cultures. So I would say my mantra, this is my life mantra, not just my teaching mantra anymore. It's my life mantra, is connection before correction. How do we connect with the individual before we correct, before we teach? So whether it's at home or whether it's in school, we need to connect with the person before we correct, before we teach. And that's with adults and it's with kids. So even if you're working in a school and you're having to talk to a parent, how are you connecting to the parent first? If you're working with a child, how are you connecting with the child? Even with my spouse, how do I connect with my husband first before we then have that difficult conversation, before we focus on a solution?
Interesting. Like, again, you said this is a mantra, connection before correction. And you said, and you talked about the rule of 80-20, like sometimes I'm here 80%, but then the 20% are the old habit. If I'm a parent and I would like to start implementing positive discipline at home, what is the recommendation of Joy? Where do I start? Do I start by reading a book? Do I start by attending a workshop? Do I start by going to coaching session? So is there any starting point?
Well, you start wherever you can. You just start, right? So that's number one. However, I will say you can read a million books, okay? But this, when you think about this philosophy, you can have all the knowledge in the world. You can read every book written by Dreikers and Adler and Jane Nelson, right? But if you don't apply that knowledge, it's useless. Like, it's not going to make any change. So the important thing is to just take small steps. It's not like saying, I'm going to read the book and apply everything I just read. That wouldn't be realistic. That's like trying to say, if you were never a runner, I'm going to just go run a marathon. You would get injured. It wouldn't work. So it's the small, consistent steps that lead to the greatest transformation. And I want to remind people that change is hard. Like, most of us don't love change. So I want to do a quick experiment, because this is what, for me, this is what makes positive discipline really stand out. And this is what helps us to apply it. When we hear things, we tend to forget what we hear. When we see things, we remember it. When we experience things, that's when we're able to really learn it and apply it. So our workshops, and the reason I say, if you can get yourself to a live workshop or even a workshop online, because even online, you can make it experiential. That's one of the best places to start, because we learn by doing. It's the same thing with kids in school. They learn by doing, by having opportunities to practice. So I want to talk about this change process. So I'd like everyone who's watching, whether you're on Zoom or watching on Facebook, I want everyone, take your hands and put them together like this.
I love those, because Joy always brings like interaction, even online. So I'm going to do the same. So we're putting our hands.
Yep. And I want everyone to notice which thumb is on top. So I have my left thumb on top. Some of you might have your right thumb on top. It's not a personality test. It doesn't mean anything. I just want you to notice which thumb is on top, okay? Notice how that feels. Now take your hands apart, take them apart. Now I'm gonna ask you to put them back together, but this time you have to link your fingers the opposite way so the other thumb is on top. So now I have my right thumb on top. How does that feel? Ali, how does it feel?
So strange, because also I have at the first time the left one at the top. I'm left-handed, so.
And how does it feel now to have the right one on top?
Yeah, it's different. I'm trying to find like the comfort zone. I'm looking for my comfort zone.
Right? It doesn't feel great. It feels different. For some people, it feels awkward. For some people, it feels really weird. And for others, it actually feels so uncomfortable that if I told you to stay like this for the next 15 minutes, like it would be painful for you. Like you couldn't even pay attention to me, because all you'd be thinking about is how uncomfortable this is, right? That's how change feels for most of us. So when I ask you to change your language or change your behavior, okay, then it might feel a bit awkward or uncomfortable or even hard at first. And think about it. We ask kids every single day to do new things, to learn new things, to change. So that's kind of a little bit difficult. Now, I want you to do one more thing. Take your hands apart, shake them out. I don't even want you to think about it. Like, just now put them back together. Put them back together. Where did you go? Ali, where did you go?
Left on the top.
Back to the original way, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
we do what's comfortable. Our brain is designed to be efficient. Our brain is designed to take the path of least resistance. So when we have habits, we're always going to do that. The only way for the other way to become a habit and become comfortable is to keep forcing it and doing it and consciously say, I'm going to put the right on top. I'm going to, like 10,000 times until now we have formed the new habits. So when I ask you to change your language or change a strategy, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first, and it's going to be hard until it becomes easy, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Joy, our participants started interacting by asking question, and I love this question from Rami. So he texted it in Arabic. You can also text in French, and I will be translating to Joy to English. So Rami is a teacher, and he's implementing positive discipline, if I'm not mistaken, because I've heard about his name from Umnia. And he said, but sometimes the parents, they do it the wrong way. So we try to fix it at home, and then parents are still with the old habit. So what can we do?
You educate the parents. That's why we're having this webinar, in the sense that, you know, listen, you can't, Rami, control what's happening in a child's home. You can't. You can only control what's happening in your classroom. And as an educator, I understand your frustration when you're working so hard to teach these kids these important characteristics and life skills, right? We're really trying to do the best. And then you feel like the child goes home and everything's undone. And every day you're having to redo it. This is why in positive discipline, we don't just train the educators to apply it in the classroom. We educate the parents so that they can apply it at home. You have to understand, you went to school to become an educator. Who goes to school to become a parent? I didn't, right? There's no manual for parenting. Well, there is. There's lots of books for it. And some information is really good and some not so much, because some is still telling you to use rewards, right? And use external, you know, reinforcement. So, you know, it's hard for parents to navigate what is going to be effective for their child. So how do they all parent? Well, they typically do exactly what was done for them because that's all they know, or they parent exactly the opposite because they resent what was done. In either case, they only know from how they were parented. So it's our job. This is why we need more people to become positive discipline parent educators. And in your school, you need to be inviting the parents in, not with so they feel judged, so that they understand that you're trying to work together to speak the same language, to apply the same tools together. Because only when we build, when we create the village our children need by coming together, rather than parents blaming teachers and teachers blaming parents, when we come together and we create the village our children need, and we are speaking the same language and applying the same tools, that's when we will see a big difference with the kids. So we need to come together. And one thing you can do, Rami, think about this. Remember my mantra, connection before correction. So you're going to approach the parents the same way. You're going to say, I know how much you love your children and how you want to give your kids more than you had. And sometimes when we do that, we actually end up spoiling them, or we end up, right? Like, and we're not doing the best for them in the long run. So sometimes we have to say no to our kids, for example, or we have to stop doing things for our kids that they can do for themselves. Because when we do things for kids that they can do for themselves, they never develop the belief that they're capable. They actually develop entitlement and dependence.
So I'm waiting for more questions. Let's see if the people watching on Facebook or here on Zoom, they have an additional question. And while we're waiting for our audience question, Joy, so based on your response and based on this whole idea that Rami shared with us about educating parents, I know that in positive discipline, we train teacher, counselor, or even parents, or anyone interested in educating the parents the positive discipline way. So what are the main takeaway from the workshop? If we want to encourage people to come and to learn about parenting the positive discipline way, so what are the 3 top takeaway?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, first of all, if you were to come to the Teaching Parents the Positive Discipline Way certification workshop, it's a full 2-day workshop. And you get certified through the Positive Discipline Association. So it's internationally recognized. You can train parents anywhere, live or on Zoom. And I think the main takeaways are, first of all, you developing your own skills and applying it more in your own life, because it all comes down to, it starts with you, and it comes down to that modeling piece, right? So what you take away for yourself, I think, is primary. And some of it is not new, right? Like I hope that some of what I say validates you, that you're like, okay, yes, I'm doing this. So hopefully from the workshop, you feel validated, and you will leave with a huge toolbox that you can apply in your own life, but you can also teach parents. And you do not have to be an educator to do it. You don't have to be an expert. I'm not an expert. We learn together. I'm always learning. Every workshop, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm still learning. That's what life is about. Once you stop learning, you're fixed, right? So I'm always learning and growing. So you will leave with a toolbox for yourself and a toolbox that you can help share with other parents.
I know that again, the uniqueness of the positive discipline workshop are the experiential learning. And this whole idea, Joy, that you can do the workshop with this group, and tomorrow you do it with another group, and it gives a completely different vibe, different context, different response. So is this a secret of the positive discipline as well?
Well, I have to say, it was my buy-in to the program in the sense of the experiential nature. Like I said, we learn by doing, we learn by experiencing. So even though we were all kids, you get the opportunity to put yourself back in your child's shoes and to understand, to really, how do we really build that understanding and that empathy? People think that kids have changed. Do you want to know a secret? Kids have not changed at all. Like in hundreds of years, kids are the same. What has changed? Parenting. Parenting has changed. And when the strategies we use, when we change, the environment around us changes. The good news is that means we can change it to what we want it to be. So that experiential nature is so incredible. I can talk and talk and talk to you for hours about this. But unless you experience it, you're probably not going to apply anything that I share with you. Now, when you're thinking about change, because you felt that, you're going to be conscious of your habits and change, and knowing that it's hard, right? So it's really having those experiences, learning by doing. There was a question I can see in the chats.
Yes. So they asked about the certification, from where we can get that, how we can do that. I replayed next weekend in Dubai, face to face, or for the people who cannot make it, they can check Joy website, Positive Discipline website, and then you will have the whole calendar about the upcoming events. So Farah on Facebook, she's commenting, kids are kids. We as parents change the way we deal with our kids because of the new context. And then Bashir is asking if this is translated into Arabic. Bashir is watching from Algeria. And of course, Bashir, it's translated into Arabic. Umniya our again friend. She came live with me also in previous Zoom webinars, and we talked about positive discipline in Arabic, and we also do this event in Arabic. So let's say hi to Umnia. I'm not sure she's watching us, but I'm going to put her name in the chat, and so you can check Umnia Facebook, and where you can find plenty of resources in Arabic, Bashir.
And she, just so you know, she's located in Egypt, and her and I do a lot of work together. We co-facilitate together in English and Arabic. It's amazing. And many of the resources have been translated into Arabic. And one of my colleagues actually wrote a book called Positive Discipline for the Muslim Home. So just to show how positive discipline, the philosophy, how aligned it is with Islam.
Right, right. And again, let's mention her name. So she's based in the US as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will say, you know, next week, it's on, sorry, what day? It's on Saturday, Sunday, isn't it, next week?
Yes.
So next weekend, live 2 days. If you're in the region and you can make it, I think we have like 5 spaces left. So, you know, you can sign up. Yes, it's ideal if you can take it in person because you connect. And if you really can't make it in person, I have an online one happening in December. So
yeah, I saw that. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, you have the options, and, you know, feel free to reach out to us if you have more questions about that. Either way, it's experiential. Either way, you're going to get so much out of it. Yeah.
Okay, so Joy, 3 minutes left. And again, people are really engaging in the chat, asking for workshop, asking for events, asking for translation. So what we can say as a final word, again, we started about positive discipline. We're wrapping up about positive discipline. For all the parents who are watching us, or for all the educators who are watching us, what can we tell them about positive discipline, especially if they are hearing this word for the first?
So there's 2 things I'd love to share in the next 2 minutes. The first one is some people hear the name positive discipline and, you know, they don't love the name. You know, sometimes they think they're going to learn how to positively discipline their kids. I just want you to think of positive discipline as that connection and correction piece. The positive is the connection. Okay. It's not like, oh, everything's, you know, it's not permissive. That's one of the things that people, they make a mistake. They think positive means let kids do whatever they want. Please, it is not permissive. Think of positive as connection. Discipline does not mean to punish. Discipline, actually, a disciple is a student, not a recipient of behavioral consequences. So discipline means to teach. So there's the correction piece. So think about the connection before correction. The last thing I want to leave you with is I just want to remind you, and I think the sooner we all accept this, the happier we'll all be. We cannot control another person, even our own kids. However, what can we control? We can control ourselves, and we can control the environment that we create in our home, in our classroom, in our workplace community. So we can control ourselves and we can control the environment. And when we change, the environment around us changes. So this is not about controlling our kids. This is why the book that I co-authored with Jane Nelson and Christina Bill, our first introduction says, is positive discipline for you or for your child? And the answer is it's both, and it starts with you.
So we're wrapping up this beautiful discussion with you, Joy, with this whole idea about a change and being the change. Next weekend, face-to-face in Dubai, for all the people who are in becoming certified parents positive discipline educator. And what else? So stay safe. We feel that we gave you so many tips, so many tools, so many books, so many websites. So just go deeper into this whole word about, again, how to be human, and then how to connect as a human being. Joy website, you can just Google her name, and she's putting it in the chat. And Mariam, if I'm a different country, how can I access the material? You go on the website of the Positive Discipline Association. I think Joy is also putting it in the chat. And if you have any question, you want to know more about the workshop, feel free to email me. You all received my contact while you registered to this Zoom meet. Thanks, everyone, and we stay in touch. Joy?
Just to let you know, on Jane Nelson's website, positivediscipline.com, a lot of the materials are available like for download as PDFs, because the shipping is crazy. But also check Amazon in your country. If you have Amazon, a lot of the books are also available on Amazon.
Very good. So that's all for tonight. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.